Today we will be breaking down and recapping one of the best animation movies I have ever seen, titled Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. There will be spoilers ahead. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Our story kicks off with Gwen Stacy chilling with her buddies and banging out tunes on her drum kit, all while giving us a walk down memory lane. She waxes nostalgic about her crazy multiverse escapades in her run-in with our boy Miles Morales, but it ain't all fun and games. She goes way back when her and Peter Parker were good friends. Even Gwen's pop's Captain George Stacy was in on the friendship, but then Peter had to go and chug a serum that turned him into the Lizard. At their school prom, Gwen had to step up, go toe-to-toe with her old buddy. It didn't end well with Peter not making it out alive. That left a bad taste in George's mouth. He thought Spider-Gwen had blood on her hands and wanted her behind bars. Now our girl Gwen is feeling the blues, missing Miles something fierce and feeling lonelier than a drummer without a band. After a heart-to-heart with her old man, she picks up some cop chatter and tails Captain Stacy to a crime scene. Lo and behold, it's the Vulture throwing a tantrum. Only this ain't her Vulture. This one's straight out of a Renaissance painting. Gwen tries to put a lid on the mayhem, but she's overmatched. Just when things start looking real ugly, a portal rips open and in jumps Miguel O'Hara as Spider-Man 2099. Dude's got some tricks up his sleeve, but even he needs to phone a friend when things get rough. He calls on his AI buddy Leela to bring in the cavalry, and that's when we meet the superheroic Jessica Drew, otherwise known as Spider-Woman. Talk about making an entrance. Vulture swoops down on a helicopter, but Gwen ain't having any of it. She pulls some Spider-Woman moves out of her hat and saves the chopper from becoming scrap metal. With some epic teamwork, our trio puts the bird back in its cage. Then in walks George, dead set on slapping cuffs on Gwen. She's fresh out of web, leaving her no choice but to unmask herself. Even after she spills the beans, her dad is not backing down. That's when Miguel steps in, trapping George, and hands Gwen a snazzy wrist gadget that's her get to bouncing between universes. Gwen takes a final look at her dad before hopping on the Multiverse Express with Miguel and Jess. Now we're hanging out with our main man Miles Morales in Earth 1610. The kid's juggling school and superhero duties, and let me tell you, it ain't going great. While his folks Jefferson and Rio are getting an earful from his guidance counselor, Miles dips into a grocery shop. What does he find? A baddie called the Spot raiding an ATM using body-generated portals. Miles races after Spot, finally managing to tie him in knots through his own portals. Just in time to meet with his parents. At the meeting, his folks are bummed to find out that Miles has been jigging from Spanish class, earning him a B before they can wrap up their chat. Miles spots the Spot making a break for it. He dashes out as his dad also gets the call, leaving Rio all by her lonesome. So off Miles goes, chasing him down to Alchemax. That's where Spot drops the bomb about his deep route to Grudge. Jefferson makes an appearance, but he's quickly caught in the melee, until Miles sweeps in and topples Spot. Our villain then reveals his backstory. Used to be Dr. Jonathan, a scientist at Alchemax. Remember the bagel guy that Miles logged to breakfast treat at? Yeah, that's him. When the Spider team went kaboom on the collider, good old Johnny got drenched in some radioactive cocktail, which gave him a pale complexion and transformed him into a living portal generator. Spot lunges at Miles, only to wind up booting his own backside through his final portal. After the dust settles, Miles has a chit-chat with Jefferson, trying to convince him to give his son some breathing room. Meanwhile, Spot finds himself trapped in an interdimensional no man's land, surrounded by portals as far as the eye can see. He takes a whirlwind tour through these gateways, landing in a Lego universe and even running into Mrs. Chen. Yes, the very same from the Venom movies. When he finally makes it back to his own universe, Spot hatches a new scheme. He's gonna hoover up more collider energy from different dimensions to get the upper hand on Miles. Talk about holding a grudge. So we got a party in honor of Jefferson, who's about to level up to police captain. But Miles is running late because he's on cake duty. His Dieter to play superhero doesn't help, making him miss Jefferson's toast. By the time he does show up, he gets an earful from both his parents. Tensions flare, leading to a shouting match. Miles wants to let the cat out of the bag about his Spidey life, but knows this ain't the place or time. Back in his room, Miles gets a surprise visit from Gwen. Popping out of a portal, seeing her puts a big grin on his face. I mean, just check out all those sketches of her in his notebook. She throws him an invite for a night out, despite his grounding. Miles suits up and they go web slinging across the city, taking a breather on a skyscraper to hang upside down. They have a heart-to-heart with one another, but Gwen seems to pull back for some reason, as if hiding something. They swing back to the party, introducing Gwen to Jefferson and Rio, who can't help but feel a little suspicious about her. After Gwen takes off for some Spidey business, Rio sits Miles down for a mom-to-son talk, reminding him that he's growing up and needs to look after himself. She also gives him a gentle nudge to chase after Gwen. Miles catches sight of her and something's off, so he flips on his invisibility mode and tails her to a crime scene. Spot's handiwork using a nifty gadget. Gwen replays the crime, revealing that Spot has juiced up his portal power by taking a dip in a collider. Gwen is contacted by Jess as she had been assigned to the task of finding the multiversal anomaly, and Miles overhears Jess tell Gwen to forget about him. Gwen hops into the portal, leaving Miles to take a moment to ponder before deciding to follow her. Miles drops into Mumbattan right when Gwen is in hot pursuit of Spot, but without the universe jumping device. Miles starts glitching and can't lend a hand. That's when Paviter Prabhasar as Spider-Man India swings in, bringing his unique skills to the fray. Paviter gives his own rendition of the One Last Time intro, unveiling his life as an ordinary high schooler who's with Gayatri, the daughter of Inspector Singh, a man who's not too keen on Paviter. They chase Spot to Alchemax's Mumbattan branch, where he's in the middle of a collider fusion. Miles tries to use his powers to take down the force field holding them back, but Hobie Brown as Spider-Punk steals the show with his rebellious rocker moves, shattering the force field. But even their combined efforts can't stop Spot from completing his fusion with the collider, which supercharges his portal power and sends the lab into a meltdown. Amidst the chaos, Miles catches a glimpse of a vision featuring his father rushing to save a kid. A side Spot claims is their future. Our Spider Squad bolts outside to help the citizens escape the crumbling building. They clear the bridge, do their best to minimize debris damage, and even pull off some daring rescues. Paviter snags a bus with Gayatri on board, while Singh is trying to save a little girl on a bridge. Miles goes after Singh despite Gwen trying to stop him. He manages to prevent Singh's death while Paviter saves Gayatri. The citizens cheer on the Spider heroes, but the victory is short-lived as a portal opens up and starts to swallow parts of the universe. In comes Jess with her team, ready to clean up the mess, and drops the summons for Miles to report to their HQ. Miles links up with the rest of the gang as they make their entrance at the headquarters of the Spider Society, a place bustling with Spideys from countless universes. Ready, take a deep breath. We've got hundreds of different Spider-Man and women. They come in all shapes and sizes, and while that's a lot of spider action, Jess hands Miles a wristband that'll keep his glitching at bay as they tour the HQ. Miles gets a look at the villain lineup from across the multiverse, with a Prowler version making a cameo, and hey, it's Donald Glover in the flesh. Miles also has a reunion with Peter B, who introduces him and Gwen to his little spiderling, May or Mayday, the daughter he shares with Mary Jane. Miles gets to meet the man behind the Spider Society, Miguel, but the reunion turns sour as Miguel vents his frustration at Miles for messing with what's known as a canon event. In every Spider-Person's universe, a police captain is destined to die in action. Usually it's some version of Captain Stacy. Miles saving Inspector Singh wasn't part of the script, and the sudden realization hits him hard. His own father is next on the chopping block. Miguel breaks it down for him. Playing around with canon events can unleash untold chaos. Case in point, Miguel himself, who once slept into a universe where his own variant had bit the dust. He filled in for that Miguel's life, embracing his family as his own, but it came with a heavy price. An anomaly wiped out numerous people from that universe, including Miguel's daughter. Miles' argument that they can't just let his father die. The other Spider people have already accepted this harsh reality. The argument escalates, with the entire Spider Squad confronting Miles before Miguel lands him in a trap. But Miles won't stand down, with a little advice from Hobie on how to break free. He uses his powers to bust out of the trap. Now he's got every single Spider-Person hot on his heels courtesy of an enraged Miguel. Miles makes a mad dash through a facility, taking on every Spider-Person that steps into his path. Their chase spills over on top of a train, where Miguel decides to tackle Miles himself. The tension boils over into a full-blown battle, where Miguel drops a bombshell. Miles was never meant to be Spider-Man, according to him. The spider that bit Miles wasn't even from his universe. Miguel blames Miles for his Peter's death and for the lack of a Spider-Man in the Spider's home universe. And to add salt to the wound, it turns out Gwen and Peter B knew about all this. A stab in the back that stings Miles. But Miles has a card up his sleeve. He planned all along to lure the Spider Army away from the tower. With his electric powers, he manages to shake off Miguel. With every Spider-Person's gaze fixed on him, Miles pulls off a daring move, staring at each Spider-Man with disgust, and beats them all by taking a leap of faith off the train. Now that's what I call a game changer. Miles slips back into HQ under the cover of invisibility, where he finds Margot's avatar still hanging around. He sets a machine in motion, ready to jet back to his universe. Miguel and the rest of the Spider team storm in, but it's too little too late. Margot, for reasons only she knows, lets Miles make his escape. As the dust settles, Miguel punishes Gwen for her part in helping Miles. He strips her of her device and zaps her back to her own universe. But he's not done yet. He rounds up Jess and Ben, ready to give chase to Miles. Gwen lands back in her old apartment where George is left to his lonesome. She stumbles upon a picture of her and Miles, almost leaving the scene until George wakes up and spots her. Emotions run high as Gwen vents her frustration at George for blaming her for her Peter's death. George reveals he left the Force after Gwen vanished. The reunion ends in a reconciliation, and George hands Gwen a device, a parting gift from Hobie. She wraps her dad in a hug before hopping over to Miles's universe. Buckle up folks, things are heating up. Back in his apartment, Miles finds his mom. He takes a deep breath and unveils his double life as Spider-Man, only for Rio to erupt in laughter and question, "Who's Spider-Man?" Gwen's been eavesdropping from the outside and silently makes her way in. But the atmosphere gets chilly when Miles glitches and realizes the spider that bit him wasn't from his world. He then hears the door creaking open, and his dead Uncle Aaron walks in alive and well. Miles runs in for a hug and Gwen comes to the same conclusion, just before she's spotted by Miles' actual parents. They're wary of her, but she assures them she'll find Miles. In the meantime, Miles tags along with Aaron on a gig, where he spots a mural that chills his bones. Jefferson is dead in this universe, but before he can fully process this, a figure dressed as Prowler crashes the party and knocks Miles out cold. Miles regains consciousness tied to a punching bag in Aaron's apartment. When he tries to bring up his universe's Prowler story, Aaron cuts him off with a punch to the bag, stating firmly he's not the Prowler. Then the actual Prowler steps into the room, slowly taking off his mask to reveal it is none other than Miles Morales from this universe, with braids and looking every bit the Prowler in a world without a Spider-Man. He is a full gangster in this universe, not caring at all that his dad from another universe is about to die. Electricity crackling ominously around the chains binding our Miles flickers. Back in his home universe, Spot makes his appearance, setting his sights on Jefferson. At the same time, Gwen gathers her own squadron of spider people. Their mission: rescue Miles, and so they swing into action. And unfortunately, this story is to be continued. Thank you for joining us on this journey, and I hope you enjoyed Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse story.